Wow, this is the best Dragon Ball game I've ever played. This isn't a Dragon Ball game. There's a monkey man flying around on a cloud. What else could this be?
Now do you believe that you're my dad? Nobody but a McFinnigan could handle that much of the creature.
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Once again, an action game is rising like the sun from the east, and everyone is freaking out about it. You gotta love video games. Something unique and interesting is coming out halfway across the world, and that means that every American has to get their panties in a twist. Just like with Final Fantasy 16 and Stellar Blade. I thought both games were pretty good, I enjoyed them a lot, but they didn't blow my mind or anything. Same thing with Black Myth Wukong. I think it's a fun, interesting game with a lot of cool lore. But I doubt I would have jumped into it too quickly unless there was a bunch of people yelling at each other over it on the internet. Seriously, a lack of diversity in a game where everyone is an animal person? Oh, just shut up. You have to be mocking me at this point. And allegedly sexist comments from years ago coming from anonymous sources. I feel like I'm being pranked. This has to be some sort of secret op marketing campaign because their weird hatred is just making people more interested in purchasing the products.
Are you stupid or something?
I'm as stupid as a stupid does.
And it worked. I decided to check out the game. Granted, the price is $60 instead of the usual $70, so it was a lot more tolerable for me. If you want a quick review from me, I would say that the combat is fun, but a little floaty and unprecise. Environments were very beautiful, but the invisible walls were frustrating because sometimes I didn't know where I could go and where I couldn't. A little fine tuning with the combat and a mini-map would have gone a long way, along with putting a little bit more story in the actual story. Everything was about the spectacles, the fights, and keeping you moving so that you don't get bored. Meaning, in order to get the lore, you had to do a hell of a lot of reading. I mean, I'm okay with reading in order to learn more about other cultures, but adding a little bit more to the story would have been nice. But Black Myth Wukong put fun action first, and I gotta respect that.
That was totally wicked!
It was a good first outing with a lot of room to grow with sequels, with the only downside being that you need to play it on PC instead of console because the console version tends to lag a bit, I'm just saying. But with the story, Black Myth Wukong is introducing you to very small parts of Chinese lore and then moving on basically immediately. It did leave me wanting more in a good way, but unfortunately there isn't a whole lot of room for me to fill that void other than rewatching a bunch of Dragon Ball or rereading Journey to the West. Because Black Myth Wukong and Dragon Ball were both inspired by the same 16th century novel, which in my mind makes them cousins, and that's very interesting and fun, especially because of how inspirational Dragon Ball is. Dragon Ball was inspired by Journey to the West, meaning that anything that was inspired by Dragon Ball technically has Journey to the West as its grandfather. And considering that Black Myth Wukong has a monkey as the main character, I think that the game takes more inspiration from Dragon Ball as well. Because the novel Journey to the West is actually about a Buddhist monk, and no, I am not going to try to say any of the names because I will just embarrass myself. The monkey is actually the first disciple of the monk and is constantly rebuked for his violent ways. But I don't think interpreting that story would do well for an action manga and for a video game. But if you think about it, that means that Bulma is the monk in the story. I think if she was preaching a religion that a lot of people would be converting.
Hello? I love you.
While the lore of Journey to the West is complicated, following both real-life Chinese issues and fictional mythology, the overarching story of Journey to the West is pretty basic when you get down to it. A monk journeys to a Western paradise in order to gain scripture. As he goes, he is met by different opposition, 3 of which decide to join him as his disciples. Those disciples are a monkey, a pig, and, if I remember correctly from the translation, a river ogre. So the monk turns enemies into friends and journeys to get a MacGuffin that, while we don't care about, is super important to his world. Oh wow, I wonder if that sounds familiar at all. And that's probably the weakest aspect of the story with Black Myth Wukong. They did not interpret that aspect of Journey to the West into the game. You do not get to beat up the enemies, recruit them into friends, and interact with them along the way. Not to say that I want them as party members in the game or anything, but having them be along the roads and have dialogue with the main characters so that you can learn more about them would have been very interesting. Just saying, having some characters to anchor yourself onto would have made the journey a bit more interesting. Nothing was bad or insulting or anything, I just wanted to know more other than having the characters show up, fight, lose, and then disappear.
What do you mean your work is done? You didn't do anything.
Didn't I?
I mean, come on, Dragon Ball is famous for this trope, where Goku turns enemies into friends. Can you name any of Goku's friends besides his children that didn't try to attack him at some point? No, so there you go. That's Black Myth Wukong's greatest weakness. It didn't take that interpretation from Journey to the West and put it into the game. It's still fun, I'm not taking anything away from that aspect of it. But considering that the company went from indie mobile games to this, it's super impressive. And there is a lot of room to grow and a lot of room for sequels. More interactions with the different characters and more lore in the story, please. That's all I'm asking for. Because Dragon Ball is distinctly Japanese. That's not a bad thing or anything. It's just that Journey to the West is Chinese. So I'd really like to see what people from China would do more with the story and the lore from their mythology. But I always have the rule that if your greatest issue with something is that you want more of it, then maybe it's time to shut up just a little bit.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
A beautiful game with amazing music that makes me feel like Goku going through the actual Journey to the West novel. Isn't that neat? And the amazing thing is that this new game might get more people interested in Journey to the West, and then the novel will inspire even more different types of stories. And then weirdos on the internet can get mad that people were inspired by a Chinese book, even though they were already mad that the Chinese used their own stories in a video game. I love people on the internet so much, they're so stupid. But seriously, in the next game they really need to have the Destined One trained with some type of perverted old sea turtle. That would be a great reference. All building up to a giant tournament. That'd be a little bit better than a MacGuffin treasure hunt, that's all I'm saying. I mean, to be fair to Black Myth Wukong, whose favorite arc in Dragon Ball is the very start. The game is very fun and the story is serviceable. I'm just saying that they can build to something incredible. And considering how well this game has sold, there will be sequels. Huh. People want to play as a young Goku building himself up and fighting interesting enemies. Who would have guessed such a thing would work? Personally, I think it's interesting, it's new, and it has a whole lot of lore to build off of. All of which I'm very excited to learn about. But what do you think? Did you like Black Myth Wukong? Did you see the similarities with Dragon Ball? Have you read Journey to the West? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with all of this, that's fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half, but if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.